Hey, welcome back to Rooftops and Rent Rolls for another video. And today I'm going to tell you about my very first property I ever bought when I would guess I was about 20 years old. So I purchased this property. It was a 2 unit. The utilities were separated as far as heat. So I believe there was electric baseboard heat. It was so long ago now, 25 years ago, something like that. So I don't remember every single detail from this property, but I do remember they were both one bedroom, one bath apartments, pretty much mirrored. Um, it was, a property that was actually advertised in the newspaper, back when people actually bought newspapers, and it was offered as a rent to own. And many of you who've been around as long as me remember back when the Carlton Sheets courses were advertised everywhere, and you could get into properties with little or no money out of pocket. And so you were constantly searching for specifically these types of deals where you could get into properties. And I was 20 years old. I had been a property manager for a year and a half, 2 years by this time. And so, I didn't like the volatility of working for someone else. And what if they get rid of me, or what if I don't like working there? So there's a lot of moving parts with that. And so I at first I never wanted to own properties, but I thought I'm going to really chart my own course here and maybe do it simultaneously, which is essentially what I pretty much did for 20 years. And so um, I I responded. I looked at this property. I just wanted my first property. I just wanted it, and that's always the worst thing to do. Don't force yourself into buying a property just because you want a property. Like, it actually has to make sense. You actually have to inspect the roofs. You actually have to inspect the electrical, all the mechanicals of the property. You want to make sure the structure is safe and sound. And so there's a lot of due diligence that you should do prior to purchasing a property, which at that time I was 20 years old and I didn't know what that due diligence was. And so I knew how to, by that point, lease an apartment. I had taken courses, as I said in a prior video, through the International Council of Shopping Centers for shopping center management. By this point in my career, I had even taken a class through the National Home Builders Association for how to lease an apartment. It was a method to going forward to become a certified leasing professional. And so, I had taken multiple courses. I may have even, I'm not sure, been through the real estate licensing classes. I'm not sure of the time frame with this building and my classes with regards to that. But I do remember responding, taking a look at the building, and then I used, credit cards used to send you a couple checks with your credit card, and you could actually write out a check and draw on your credit card through writing a check to someone. I think it was a higher interest rate. And so I used those checks, to put down to buy this building. And he said $1,000 down and $500 a month or something like that. And I thought, wow. And then he said, by the way, since you want to rent it out, obviously it's a 2 unit. You don't want to live in one and rent the other or anything like that. You want it as a rental property. I'll give you 2 applications that someone, a property manager, had actually already obtained and was showing these units. And so I was like, well, I'll definitely look at the applications, because now I'm thinking I got to pay my credit card back. I have to make the $500 a month. And so, I want to get it rented out as fast as possible and obviously start to make money off the property. So I purchased this 2 unit. We went in and did probably more work than what we needed to, but nothing crazy. It was all cosmetics for the most part, some electrical repairs and some minor things, but things that I felt should meet the standard of a correct turnover, at least for, a baseline for that market, that region that we were renting the properties in. And so, anyway, the tenants moved in. I moved the 2 people in. They were friends. the first floor and second floor, and I thought that's ideal. They won't complain about noise to one another, or to me. And so they're friends, so they'll get along. I think they even came through a church organization or something, so they were, um, they were decent tenants. They, at least I thought they were, right? And so, of course, we're in there, we start having problems. I actually posted a bunch this week about my whole refrigerator story with regards to this property. And if you didn't see that yet, you should go check it out. It's posted, the story's written and posted multiple places on the internet, as well as some videos were posted about it and some memes if you're not following me on social media. And so, anyway, so I purchased this property. It didn't go as planned. The tenants then stopped paying rent, and I just kind of gave it back to the guy that had sold it to me on a rent to own. And so the moral of the story is, first off, don't rush into buying your first property. Don't be that person like I was when I was 20 years old. I have to own a building. I have to own a building. It's serious, but it's not that serious that you want to, charge stuff on your credit cards to get into your first building. You don't want to not even properly know what you're looking at. Like I had been a property manager for a while, but being a property manager and being an owner, putting your credit out there, right? To be messed up because you bought a building and shouldn't have. You didn't have the wherewithal to back repairs as they came up, unless you're planning to just put that on your credit card too. And so the moral of this story is to teach you to go through proper due diligence when you buy a property. Make sure you have the proper contracts in place that will protect you. Make sure that you have the money to make repairs. Start, your capital improvement reserves. Start putting your taxes behind, in a separate account, so that not paying them behind, but paying them so that you have this account in reserve, so when your taxes come due. I do have another quick part of this story to tell you. So while I owned this property, we were, I don't know, 2 or 3 months into quote ownership under this rent to own, where I was buying it, renting it to own it. And then, under a rent to own, you have so much time until you have to obtain a mortgage. It might have been 12 or 24 months. And I thought, well, 12 months or 24 months of on-time payments, and my credit's decent, so I should be able to get a mortgage on it. I think it was it's a 2-unit, both 1 bedroom, 1 baths, and I think I got it for $59,000. Back in that day, they said, those prices were pretty decent. So, I mean, obviously now it's really decent if you can find that, but it's probably in really bad shape and probably has some major issues if you're buying it for that price, because the price of real estate has drastically went up. That same building today is selling for over $150. But the next funny story I wanted to share with you is we're 3 months into it, right? And I know I'm jumping around a little bit here, but we're 3 months into this ownership, and the city comes out, and the city had at that point was maintaining utility billing for water, sewer, and trash. And I hadn't seen a water bill till this point. They posted on the doors of the units of my tenants stating that the water would be shut off because the water bill wasn't being paid. And so the water bill was going to the owner, the actual owner, and not me, the rent-to-own person. And here the water bill was $3,500. Yeah, another thing that should have been followed under the due diligence, especially when you're buying it on a sales agreement or a rent-to-own type of a purchase, lease back, or however, whatever situation. You want to make sure that nothing's hiding, right? And so $3,500 back in that day, I mean, it still is a lot of money now for a 2-unit, but even back then it was even more astronomical. And especially to me, a new guy who had never seen a water bill before, besides the ones that I had processed through property management. I haven't received a water bill that I had to pay until I got a notice that I had to pay $3,500 or the water would be shut off. And so my immediate response was to draft a letter as a property manager, right? We always write, these letters that have all this legal stuff in it, notices to quit, notices to tenants for violation of leases and stuff. So I was used to writing letters by this point, a year and a half, 2 years into my property management career. And so I wrote a letter to the city of Harrisburg and I told them that if you shut the water off, not only will they be taken to court, but that I would, and I CC'd the Pennsylvania State Governor's Office, the Public Utility Commission, and all kinds of stuff. Like I told them I'm involving everybody. I'm not taking this. You're not shutting the water off. I have 2 families living in here. And so I wrote this really nasty letter to them. And literally the head, like the top, maybe 2 spots down from the mayor of Harrisburg had called me. And they said, look, we're not going to shut the water off, okay? We got your letter. We're not shutting it off. You don't have to do anything else. None of the things you threatened us with. You don't have to do any of those things. We're going to work with you. But I want to warn you, the guy who sold you this building on a rent to own has done this to multiple people before. He's aware and has never paid the water bill on this property in a long, long time. And he's aware that he's doing this to you and had done it to multiple other people who wanted to get into real estate. And he takes your $1,000 and $500 a month, but doesn't tell you everything else that's going on. Property taxes not paid or water bills not paid. And so they said, we'll work with you if you, keep paying the current charges. And these are what the current charges are. We'll send these to you. And, you'll be aware of what's going on with that. And, but you're going to have to talk to the guy who sold you sold you the building and work something out to get this paid. And we'll contact him as well and let him know where we're at on this situation. And that's probably around the time that I backed out. I said, whoa, I definitely got in over my head. Now I'm having to deal with a $3,500 water bill when I had already charged the $1,000 down on my credit card. And, the first month or 2 I put on the credit card until the tenants were in and paying rent. And then they stopped paying rent. So it was too many moving parts. I didn't have the wherewithal. I didn't do the proper due diligence. And so, I learned through real life property management and ownership how to manage properties and what to do. And that was when I was 20. So, 25, 26 years ago, I was learning through real life hands-on. And I hope that my videos teach you something. If you're looking to get into real estate, the proper way to get into real estate and the proper way to maintain it, how to set up a proper preventative maintenance program, how to evict tenants, and all of that stuff. And I sure hope you'll follow along on this journey with me. I hope you like and subscribe to the video. Comment if you are currently in real estate and have some investments. What kind of things did you learn off of your first 1 or 2 investment properties? I'd love to hear your stories. And again, thank you for watching, and please like, comment, and subscribe.